lot of you guys have been asking me how I was able to achieve this stance on the BRZ, and today we're going to talk about it. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that yes, this is the 2022 BRZ, but everything that I'm going to be telling you guys can do to your Generation 1 or Generation 2 BRZ, because all of these suspension components are actually interchangeable with the previous generation. Believe it or not, every suspension component that I have on this car is actually from the previous generation. So even though I did all of this on the 2022 BRZ, you guys can actually use these exact same parts and achieve the exact same results with your car. Let's start off with the first and most obvious thing, the air ride. There's a lot of people that are team static and there's a lot of people that are team bagged. Well, personally, I like air suspension. Correction, I love air suspension. I think air suspension is like the greatest thing ever. And on this car, I'm running PSI Air Struts. It's a new company, and I'll get to why I chose them in a little bit, but I'm running the PSI Air Struts and I'm running the Airlift 3P management. Now, the reason why I'm running the PSI Air Struts is because I was able to achieve just a little bit more camber up front because PSI has slim bellow bags. If any of you have airlift struts and have tried to achieve front camber, you guys know that the front strut bag is just a massive double bellow bag, and once you try to camber it just a little bit, it starts rubbing on the strut tower, and rubbing on the strut tower is never a good thing, so you gotta bang out the strut tower, and it's just a whole mess and a hassle to deal with. So with this car, I went with the PSI Air Struts because the PSI Air Struts have a very, very slim bellow bag. It's almost like a coilover, so that way you're able to push it just a little bit more without touching the strut tower. So I'm running slotted top hats. Now what these do is it allows the top of the coil or bag to slide a little bit more inwards, giving us a little bit more camber. Notice how far this is pushed inward. So if you had an airlift bag, this is almost impossible to do without hammering the crap out of this. With the PSI bags, you guys can actually kind of see how slim they are. I slid these as far inward as I could, and it's still not touching that end. Since these are super slim, it gives us a little bit more ability to move it inwards and gain a little bit more camber. PSI is relatively a new company. So far, they've been treating me pretty good. I'll let you guys know if I have any problems with them in the future, but as of right now, they're doing me pretty well. So I'm running PSI struts all around, and I'm running slotted top hats. These slotted top hats give me the ability to pull it inwards as much as I can possibly get it to go, and that gives us just a little bit of camber. Now, for a lot of people, that would be enough camber, but I took it a step further, and I got some front lower control arms. So you see that blue bar right there? I'll get some B-roll footage up on the screen for you guys so you guys can see that a little bit better, but we are running the Cusco front lower control arms. That also gave us a little bit of camber. So on the top of the strut, we have it pulled in as much as it can go, and on the bottom, we have it kicked out as much as it can go. When it comes to front lower control arms, there's a bunch of different options you can get for the BRZ and FRSs, but if you're looking for camber, you want to make sure that you get the extended versions. The top two brands, in my opinion, are one, Racer X, and then Cusco. I have the Cusco because I ordered the Racer X, and they were back ordered for like 2 months or something. I couldn't wait that long, so I just went ahead and bought the Cuscos. Cuscos are doing me fine, but I know that the Racer X actually give you a lot more camber. So if this camber is not enough for you and you want some more camber, you want to be a little more hot boy, then I would recommend getting the Racer X's. And lastly, in the front, I'm also running SPC Camber Bolts on the top bolt for my strut. I don't think I have a video of me putting them in, but I am running the camber bolt, and that gave me just a little bit of camber. To achieve this front camber, it took 3 different things: slotted top hats, extended lower control arms, and then a camber bolt. And with that, I'm able to get -9 degrees riding, and I think -11 when I'm aired out. I never really measured it while I was aired out, but what do you guys think this is? I think this is around -11. That's everything I had to do to achieve the front camber. The front camber actually took me a lot of time and researching to be able to achieve something like this. I know one thing that you can do is you can just shave off your duckle and slot your strut tower. I didn't want to go that method just because it was more on the sketchy side. I know a lot of people do it. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. So this was the most legit way I was able to get the camber that I wanted. Another thing, since I do have the extended lower control arms, in order to correct the toe, I also had to get the Racer X extended tie rods. If you're gonna get front lowers to get all of the front camber that you want, don't cheap out, get the extended tie rods. So that is how we were able to achieve this front camber. It's definitely not the most camber anybody has ever seen, but this is all done as legit as possible without having to shave any knuckles or slot any struts. I wanted to avoid that as much as possible, and I'm really happy with the camber I was able to achieve without doing that. So now you guys know everything that I had to do to achieve the front camber. Now let's talk about the rear. In the rear, I'm running a lot less camber than I am in the front. That's just because of personal choice. I personally don't like a lot of rear camber. I like the drift stance, so I like less camber in the rear, more camber in the front. Riding height, I'm about -6 in the rear. I think aired out, I'm probably around -8. If I had to guess. Again, what do you guys think this is? I think it's probably around -8, but the rear camber was super easy to achieve. One option you can go with is the rear lower control arms. That's usually the most budget friendly option and the easiest to just throw in. The problem with that is that if you're running a big wheel like I am, a 10.5, you're gonna need a lot of camber in order to fit that in, because you're gonna be kicking the bottom of the wheel out, but the top of it isn't gonna be sucked in. So you're gonna need a lot of camber. So to fit this 10.5, I would have needed like -10 with the rear lower control arm. Instead, I got a rear upper control arm. The rear upper control arm usually costs just a little bit more and it's a little bit harder to put in, but it pulls the top of the wheel in. That way you're able to put a really big wheel into the stock quarter panel. This is an 18 by 10.5 inch wheel, and I'm also running a 5mm spacer because I need to fill in some gap. Running a really big wheel like this is pretty hard without rear upper control arms. I'm running the P2M rear upper control arms. With that, I think they max out around -10 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. Something around that, -9, -10 degrees, but that's all I'm running in the rear. If you're looking for just a little bit of rear camber, that's really all you need, or you can go with the rear lower control arms if you're not trying to fit a massive wheel in. Rear camber is usually pretty easy to achieve. And then to correct the alignment of the wheel, I'm also running the Megan Racing toe or trailing arms, whatever you want to call it. Now I already know that I'm gonna get shit for that. Yeah, I shouldn't be running Megan Racing, but the guy who sold me the rear upper control arm sold me them along with it for a really good deal, so I figured what the heck, I threw them in for the time being. If they fail or whatever, I'll upgrade to Cusco's down the line. I really want the Cusco lower control arms because I just love the Cusco blue. It's such a beautiful blue. But that is all the arms that I'm running on my car, and that is how I was able to achieve this camber. I didn't have to do anything super sketchy, although I know a lot of people would argue that camber itself is pretty sketchy. I didn't have to cut and weld or anything like that. I just bought a bunch of arms, threw it in. It definitely took a lot of time to be able to achieve the camber that I wanted. There's a lot of putting the car up in the air, adjusting the arms, and then putting it back down, and then just doing that constantly. It was a lot of time and effort to get the exact fitment that I wanted, but at the end of the day, I am pretty happy with how the car looks, and all of that was completely worth it. So quick little recap. I'm running slotted top hats, SPC Camber Bolts, and then Cusco front lower control arms, along with the Racer X extended tie rods. And then in the back, I'm running the P2M rear upper control arms with the Megan Racing toe arms. If you guys want any of these parts, hit up High Intake Performance, just DM them on Instagram and they will get you squared away. We don't really have anything else planned for the rest of the day, and I really wanted to make this video for you guys because for me, it took a lot of time and a lot of energy to research everything and just figure out exactly what I needed. So I want to just save you guys that time, and here's this video just explaining everything that I use. There is no need to gatekeep in the car community. So here's everything that I use. I want you guys to know exactly what I did, so that way it saves you guys some time and I can help you guys making your cars look better. I hope this video helps somebody out, and if it does, I would really appreciate a like down below. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.